Now, we've had a couple of beautiful days of warm weather in Sydney. Sorry to everyone in Melbourne watching. But when I say warm weather, I mean in the city it's been in the high 20s. Hardly a heat wave, and yet already this is testing the energy grid. Here was the Australian energy market operator today.
We are experiencing some quite unseasonable hot weather here in New South Wales today. That, combined with a number of major generation units that are on outage, both due to planned and unplanned maintenance, is causing tightness in electricity supply here in New South Wales, both today and tomorrow.
I mean, Bronwyn, we just heard him there describe this as unseasonable hot weather. We're just days out from the official summer period, starts December the 1st, and yet already it looks like the energy grid is going to struggle to cope with it.
Well, of course it is, because we are still totally reliant on coal and coal-fired power stations. And what has happened, because in the middle of the day, when they can buy and do buy so-called renewables, it means that the coal-fired power stations have to shut off, which means that they are degraded and the maintenance has not been has not been keeping up. And so consequently, you've got various generators which are offline and being subject to repairs and so-called maintenance that's been programmed.
Yeah.
But it's not. It is a question of saying the government has told us that coal-fired power stations are out, and therefore we don't have to take care of them. And the other fact is this, that when you see that in New South Wales that the government has had to renew the life of a coal-fired power station of Eraring that was going to shut down, that's going to happen more and more because we can't do without it. And when I see the head of AEMO get up there and say, well, we're going to have to ration power, that's what he's saying, ration it. We're going to tell which users can have to turn off their activity, such as Tomago, the big aluminium smelter, which is the greatest user of power in the country. It will mean, and then ultimately, watch out if you've got a smart meter, because then the government
productivity,
can start,
impact on the economy.
Yep, but watch out personally. If you've got a smart meter, the government ultimately can turn your power off.
Oh, wow.
If you haven't got a smart meter, they can't.
I didn't know that.
Well, most people don't.
Caleb, I heard Paul Murray last night on air say that he goes around the house, this is to keep his power bill down, turning off the lights. And I think it's funny because my husband does that. You know, I'm always turning lights on, he's always turning the lights off, you know, because everyone's very worried about the power bill. Maybe it's a gender thing, Caleb.
Well, I don't know. I mean, my mother and father were both fastidious about turn the lights off, turn the lights off. I never really understood it as a child. Oh, who cares? I wasn't paying the bill. I mean, you know, you think money comes out of a wall, right? It was quite funny. My girlfriend's young son said recently, because I was leaving my rental property and looking for another one, and he just said, why don't you buy a house? And I said, well, with what money? He said, I don't just go down the bank, go and get the money. So, you know, you don't have any concept. I do it now, though, because, you know, I've got to pay the bill, right? But the point, Bronwyn, you made about the coal-fired power stations and the maintenance is the number one thing here.
Absolutely.
Because, of course, all the money the government has spent over at least the last decade has gone into renewables. So if you're an AGL or an Origin or whoever it seems to be, or whoever it happens to be, who owns a coal-fired power station, why would you be investing in a form of power that the government wants you to turn off within the next decade when you can get all the money out of them to go and build renewables? Therefore, the coal-fired power generators we have are degraded. They have been for some time. Every time this has happened, it's been because they're down for maintenance, and we supposedly live in a first world country. Now we've got to, you know, don't have the air conditioner down so low because it's bad. You run out of power, please.
So I just remember being at an international conference and talking to someone from an African country, I'll just say, I won't name it, and he looked at me and he said, how on earth can we prosper when in the entire country we only have one power generating plant? He said, the real prosperity for my country will only come when we've got power like you've got. Now, it's not going to come from wind farms. It's not going to come from panels of glass. It's going to come from nuclear or coal and or gas. And until people recognise this fact and say, we've been wrong, we've woken up, we're no longer woke, we're awakened, we're really going to see what's happening, we are on a trajectory to actually seeing my granddaughter inheriting a very poor standard of living. And I'm not prepared to stand by and let that happen.
Yeah, well, good on you, Bronwyn. You're here and you're still fighting, and we appreciate it. Now let's turn to Donald Trump. He's threatened to raise tariffs by an extra 10% on all Chinese goods coming into the US. He also said he'll charge Mexico and Canada a 25% tariff on all products coming into the US. He described, ridiculous open borders. That's his language in his social media post. Caleb, look, these are threats. The threats could have the intended consequences without him actually having to impose the tariffs. What do you think?
Well, I mean, that's obviously what he's playing at. I mean, he's alleging that China hasn't done enough to stop the flow of fentanyl into the United States. The same goes for Mexico, of course, not to speak for all the illegal immigrants who flow over the border. There is no reason that Trump should not be able to say, well, I'm going to slap these tariffs on you if you don't play ball with us, because, of course, China did exactly the same thing to us when we stood up to them. I mean, they did put the tariffs in, some of which are still there. I mean, the shellfish, what are we still talking about that one? 3 times that's been announced and still nothing has happened. So yes, I get the argument that it could be economically detrimental to consumers in the United States to have tariffs, but if China is going to play the game of slapping tariffs on other people, why shouldn't we play the same game back to them?
All right, Caleb Bond, Bronwyn Bishop, we are out of time. So great to see both of you. Thank you.